No TV program in the history of America has ever generated as deep an influence on culture as Soul Train. And then in 2006, the program suddenly disappeared without a goodbye. Every aspect of its finale was withheld from the public except for one, a taped episode that didn't make it to air. What happened behind those unaired shots? Let us turn back the clock to delve into today's tale in full. Hello and welcome on board. You're right on time for another super slick ride on the Soul Train. Don Cornelius was born in 1936 in the south side of Chicago, growing up in an America deeply divided by racial segregation. Before entering the world of television, he held several working-class jobs including traffic officer and salesman. In 1966, he enrolled in a short-term broadcasting course, and was soon hired as a reporter at WCAU-TV, a local Chicago station. And if that's your feeling, we'd like to hear about that. Also, we're going to take our first call and find out just what it was there that he conceived and launched a new project called Soul Train, a music program dedicated to the black community. Soul Train originally debuted on August 17, 1970 in Chicago. It started as live performances with local dancers and visiting musicians and soon caused a stir with its style, energy, and fresh presentation of black artistry. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. It wasn't until October 2, 1971, slightly more than 1 year later, that the show went on nationwide broadcast with sponsorship from giant firms like Sears and Johnson Products Company. With its lively music, confident fashion, and iconic dance routines, Soul Train was a TV sensation. In its heyday, the show hosted a roster of iconic performers: James Brown, Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye, Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, and subsequently LL Cool J and Mary J. Blige, all of whom performed on the Soul Train stage. It wasn't just a show for vocalists, it catapulted dancers such as Rosie Perez, Jody Watley, Clinton Gent, and Jeffrey Daniel, who went on to become part of the group Shalimar and taught Michael Jackson how to moonwalk. One of the show's most legendary segments was the Soul Train line, a dance performance where two lines of individuals stood facing one another, alternating walking into the center aisle to execute their own personal dance moves. It was a place for self-expression, fashion culture, and identity. For audience members, it was a weekly cultural ritual. For the participants, it was an opportunity that meant life could be changed. Don Cornelius was more than a host. He was the executive producer, the editor, and the creative energy behind the entire image of the show. His presence, cool, elegant, and intense, added a personality to Soul Train unlike any other music show of the era. Cornelius provided not just a show but a vision. Television must be no longer a luxury of any single group but a place where all cultures are presented honestly and positively. During more than 3 decades on the air, the show broadcast in excess of 1,000 shows, making it the longest-running music TV show of its day. During its height in late 1970s and early 1980s, Soul Train had weekly ratings of 4.5 to 5.0. Fashion and cosmetics companies marketing to the black community viewed it as ideal promotional ground, further solidifying the show's position as a central part of mainstream cultural life. Outside television, the Soul Train franchise ventured into other areas: music awards, fashion shows, and commodities. Don Cornelius regularly appeared as one of the most influential black entertainment figures. In 1971, Life magazine included him on its list of the 100 most important Americans. But when a program becomes a cultural touchstone, it also has its shadows cast behind the bright lights. And in the case of Soul Train, the changing currents of the times were something even its creator had to deal with. Don Cornelius was always described as a tough businessman. Not only did he dictate the material that appeared on the show, but he also intruded on the appearance, the outfits, and even the choreography of the dancers who appeared on the program. Rosie Perez, who danced on the show for a few seasons, said Cornelius did not allow suggestive moves or anything that departed from the aesthetic structure he endorsed. She was once asked to modify her performance style for distorting the show's artistic direction allegedly. Furthermore, most dancers who performed on Soul Train disclosed that they never received any payment. Stepping in front of the national television cameras was viewed as a career-defining experience, not an official employment with contract wages. A few subsequently complained of being taken advantage of because the show was drawing on their creativity and their youth without reciprocating comparable rewards. The largest controversy arose in an area that appeared inevitable: music. As hip-hop started to emerge as a pervasive trend during the latter half of the 1980s, Cornelius showed a very conservative approach. He felt that the genre exposed too many of the negative sides of the black community, from speech to violent imagery. In a 1992 interview, he bluntly declared, "I don't want my show to be taken over by sounds that I don't think represent anything positive." This view immediately incited polarized responses. Numerous artists and music producers felt that Cornelius had become outdated. New programs such as Yo! MTV Raps and BET's Rap City soon took its place. Top rap stars Tupac Shakur, Nas, and Snoop Dogg were usually absent from the show, a fact that compelled young viewers to watch somewhere else. This split in content direction soon resulted in a distinct fall in viewership. Although the show still maintained ratings over 4.0 during the early 1980s, by the early 2000s it dropped below 2.0. Local stations started rescheduling or substituting it with newer, more attractive shows. Don Cornelius officially retired as host in 1993, marking 23 years of continuous on-camera performance. The position was then taken over by newcomers such as Maestro Clark, Shamar Moore, and Dorian Gregory. While both brought their own enthusiasm, neither were able to match the soothing presence and representational gravitas that Cornelius had established. The efforts to breathe new life into the show through a change of hosts, a redesign of the set, and the addition of more hip-hop performers were generally regarded as stopgap measures. From 2003 to 2006, production per season was reduced and the production crew was shaken up. The internal organization of the show no longer held. Some veteran editors quit. Technical personnel shifted elsewhere. Increasing production costs coupled with aging content questioned investors about the viability of the show. For Cornelius, he slowly faded from public gatherings, all but stopping all public discussion. What was once pride was now relegated to memory. Soul Train remained on the air on a weekly basis but was no longer a cultural touchstone. Younger performers gravitated toward other stages. New dancers didn't last. The show went into stagnation. Then in 2006, at a time when the show had evidently lost its way, a curious taping session occurred. Nobody ever revealed what was going on backstage, but after this point, Soul Train never resumed. The segment, forever banned, was the topic of gossip. In March 2006, Soul Train went into what was set to be a routine taping session in Los Angeles. On paper, it was simply another installment of the show's final season. But from what many present that day have said, the mood on set was volatile from the beginning. The production staff had been rearranged at the 11th hour. The list of guests was unorganized and signs were displayed of a lack of leadership on the part of top executives. Certain sources reported that Don Cornelius was behind the scenes, but no longer had an active production position. Longtime staff reported that he expressed disappointment with the direction of the show openly. The show was set to include an up-and-coming hip-hop artist. Nonetheless, the event started almost 1 hour late as a result of conflicts between the artist's representatives and the logistics crew. A former member of editorial staff confirmed that the performance breached visual boundaries that Soul Train traditionally maintained. It contained pushy visual content, choreography, and costumes that were incompatible with the show's original intent. The controversy deepened when Cornelius allegedly asked for a shutdown of the whole editing process and held an emergency meeting with the show's distribution partners. One of the top distributors, Tribune Entertainment, pulled out a short while later. This pullout deprived Soul Train of a viable network that would continue national television broadcasting. From internal reports, within 3 weeks of taping, over 40% of local affiliates had ceased airing the program. No official announcement was issued, but industry experts took this to be essentially the last episode. The official website ceased making updates. TV networks substituted the show's time slot with other programming, and the production schedule was cancelled indefinitely. Soon after, various media outlets started referring to the taped episode as the main culprit for the show's cancellation. While it never actually aired, some of the footage that was shot on that day of taping was still owned by various ex-staff members. Social media fan sites talked about the incident and called it a cursed performance. The problematic episode affected more than one taping. It was the quiet end to one of television's most legendary,